좋아. 빠빠빠루 후. 헐 하우. 빠빠빠루 후. 잘 이루어. 잘 이루어. Yoo-hoo, diddle-a-ba-dee-doo-ba. Tidy-do.
From. Down. Diddle-a-ba-dee-doo. Check a bill now, Mel. Check him out, a bill. Damn. Check a bill now, Mel.
Wow.
ปิ้ว
Hiya.
Good morning, everyone. I hope you are having a fantastic day. If you're new to the channel, my name is Parker Nearens. To be all about how to pass your driving test with some secret little tips to make sure that you pass with flying colors. So it's about time for you to take your test. If you're a car enthusiast, this is a super exciting time. I remember when I first got my license, I felt like I had all this freedom. It was super awesome. Now, even if you don't really like cars, having your own personal form of transportation is fantastic for literally anything, even if you're just trying to avoid your parents or your siblings. Except now we're stuck in the car next to each other, so it's super awkward. Let's get right into it. Before you get to exam day, it is very important to make sure your car is 100% in working order. If it's due for an oil change or there's a check engine light, make sure to get that done prior to your test. Now, the California DMV says you need working headlights. These things make sense, but just make sure your car actually has it so you don't arrive at the test all excited and then have you fail, not because of your driving, but because of the car itself. So, working headlights, working taillights. Make sure your brakes are obviously working. Now, if they're squeaking super intensely, that might be cause for concern for the test practitioner, so maybe get those checked. Working brakes, you also need to have license plates on the car. Don't show up with a car with temporary tags. In California, it also requires you to have a light for your rear license plate as well. Know the location of all of your car accessories as they will test this. You need to know exactly where your windshield wipers are, as well as your headlights. A tricky thing that often people forget about is the location of the defroster. Now, it's not that big of a deal if you know, but it's good to take the test in a car that you are familiar with. So if you've been in the vehicle before, look at different things like where are the defrosters. If you're doing it in a car for the first time, you haven't been in it, you might start to freak out, and that'll really not set the mood for the rest of the exam. You also need to know where the heating and cooling systems are, your air conditioning, and your heater. Just be prepared so when your test proctor asks, you know where everything is. Seems simple, but it'll help you stay calm. Another thing you might want to consider prior to the test is actually studying for it. Now, I know it sounds silly, but you can actually study for your driver's test. If you go into the DMV, you can likely get a copy of a driver's handbook. Now, you're thinking, why would I want to read this? It seems like a boring pamphlet, but it actually can be worth your while, and they don't actually take that long to read, and normally they're in little bullet points to make it easy to digest. And they've got little tidbits and facts and rules that you might not have thought of when you get to the test, that you know them by heart. So for instance, here's something that they have in the handbook. If two people get to a stop sign at adjacent corners at the exact same time, so I'm pulling up to a stop sign and somebody pulls up from the right side, who actually goes first if you pull up to the stop sign at the exact same time? Well, it turns out the person on the right. Little things like that that you might not know, they're in the handbook. So I pulled over to the side here. I'm gonna let my sister hop in the driver's seat, and we're gonna go over all of the proper procedures for starting before you even begin to drive in your driver's test. Let's go ahead.
I wish I got to drive this car for my driver's test.
That would be fun. That's one little quick tip for a very small percentage of viewers. If you are considering driving and you have the opportunity to drive a very nice car for your driver's test, don't do that. It's just going to upset the test examiner. If you show up in a McLaren, which some people in Beverly Hills have done, that's giving them every single reason to want to fail you just for being a jerk. So if you do have the option, pick one of the most normal cars possible. I took my driver's test in a 2006 Toyota Sienna, so I think I looked quite safe. What did you do?
I think it was the same.
Same?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Toyota Siennas.
Do you have any like interesting stories that happened, or what did you struggle with the most during your test?
For the feedback that I got after the test, they told me that I didn't look over my shoulder enough.
Okay.
And I think I was so nervous about what was in front of me, making sure that I didn't crash into anything, that I guess I didn't turn my head enough to the right or to the left, which was interesting because I thought that I was turning my head enough. So I guess if you think you're turning your head enough, turn more.
So they're saying the amount at which you turned your head when you looked over, you can't just go like this. You need to actually look fully over your shoulder. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So one of the first things you need to do after they've checked everything is to be in the proper seating position, as well as make sure all of your mirrors are set up properly. So you need to set your seating position up so that you can comfortably place your hands at 9 and 3 and also reach the gas and the brakes. In some cars, you can control the actual angle and tilt of the steering wheel and the positioning closer and farther away from your body, so you can move that in conjunction with the seat. So go ahead and put your hands at 9 and 3. There you go. You want to have a little slight bend in your elbows, but not too far. You also don't want it to be straight out to where you can barely reach it. Now, one good way of knowing, this is a little bit closer than most people are used to sitting, but it's actually proper technique if you are driving a high performance car or on a racetrack, and that is if you're sitting back, if you can reach your hand and just rest your wrist on the top of the wheel while your shoulder is still kind of back up against the seat, then you're in the proper positioning, which it looks like you are. Now, the next thing to do is to check your mirror. So you want your rear view mirror in a position so you can see the entirety of the rear window without having to move your head. So the goal isn't to look in the rear view mirror like that. It's so you can maintain looking ahead of you and just glance your eyes up at the rear view mirror and see it clearly from there. Then the side view mirrors, you want them to see the sides of the cars, but only a little sliver of the car should be available. You don't want to check out how cool the side of your car is and your door handles. You want to be able to see your surroundings. So just a little sliver of your car is available, and the rest is the side of the road and your surroundings. Safety is the most important part of your driving test, as well as making sure the instructor feels safe, because if they don't feel safe, well, you're not going to pass your test. So one excellent way to do this, and it actually is a requirement, is to always be scanning the road, be an active driver. So you're scanning the road for immediate obstacles and what's ahead, looking as far ahead as possible so you can detect objects long before they come, but also checking your mirrors very frequently. So every couple of seconds, check the rear view mirror, check the side view mirrors so that you know what's happening behind you and around you. If the instructor looks over at you and you're just glued to the road, well, you're missing everything else that's going on around. If they see you're actively looking in your mirrors, it looks like you're doing a fantastic job, which you are. So you said you had some safety issue on your test. What happened there?
So when I was driving, we were stuck at a stop sign, and it was in not a residential area, but where there were, I guess, in an area with a bunch of shops. And this person was pulling out of their parking spot on the side of the road and basically was going to back up into me, and I froze because I thought that you weren't supposed to ever use your horn on a driver's test, and I didn't even think about that as an option because, I mean, I just
there are certain little things that you would never think about. One thing that I'm going to talk about later on in the video is what happens if an ambulance or a fire truck drives by. But little things like, should you have honked the horn? In this situation, yes. But I can see how that would be scary because you don't want to seem like an aggressive driver just honking your horn at people. So obviously, if somebody's just not going at a green light or something like that, don't honk the horn. Just wait and hopefully they figure it out.
It was interesting too because my driving instructor told me that in all of his years of proctoring driving tests, he's never had one person use the horn, and there's been...
But that was one instance he said you could use it?
Yeah, and he's saying that you should use it in dangerous situations like that, but that no one has used it.
Interesting. So another thing is keeping your hands on the steering wheel at all times. Obviously, there's going to be a couple instances where you need to remove your hands from the steering wheel, but the more that your hands are glued at 9 and 3 on the steering wheel, the more you have control of the vehicle and the more you're going to make your instructor feel safe. Another element of feeling safe is proper following distance. You do not want to tailgate people. Obviously, if you're in bumper-to-bumper traffic, having following distance isn't really a possibility, but in general, you're supposed to follow the 3-second rule. The 3-second rule gives you ample time in case the person in front of you makes an emergency stop. You can then react to it, because you can't stop right away the second they start braking. You have to first process what's happening, then decide to brake, react to it, and then slow the car down. So what does the 3-second rule actually mean? Well, it means If a car passes an object in front of you, so you're tracking the car ahead of you and they pass a light pole, then if you can count to 3 before you pass that light pole in your car, you've got more than 3 seconds of following distance. However, if you're counting 1 1,000, 2 1,000, then you hit the light pole, you're following them too closely. When you're merging on a freeway, you want a 4-second distance because cars are going a lot faster than you are. If you have a question about whether you're following too close or too far in a driver's test, err on the side of too far. There's no penalty for anti-tailgating, so you're much better off doing that. Next is approaching stop signs. Especially in California, people love to roll stop signs. Don't do this or you will fail your test. So if you see a stop sign coming up, prepare to brake and make sure to stop prior to the white stop line. Same thing applies for a red light. You need to stop prior to that line. If you go past it or you land on it, you can lose points or potentially fail. So come to a stop before the line, do a little mental count in your head, 1 1,000, 2 1,000, to make sure that the vehicle is completely stopped. Because it's easy during that momentum change to just kind of, oh, you're on the brakes and then you're off, and then all of a sudden you did a rolling stop. It's a good way to save yourself from getting tickets too. So as you're perfectly stopped, the car isn't moving at all, scan the road for pedestrians, for bikers, for random animals. Look left, look right, then proceed with caution, look left and right again. And if you're in a blind intersection, make sure that you can actually see the white line in front of your hood. That way you know you haven't crossed it. Then once you've stopped fully, you can inch out slowly to see the traffic in the blind turn. All right, we're about to come to a stop sign here. We want to stop in front or behind. You want to stop behind the white line. Perfect, come to a complete stop. Now, it doesn't matter how long you have to wait at the stop sign for it to be clear. There's no penalty for waiting too long. So make sure it's safe. Here we go, and we are on the road. When changing lanes, it's very important to follow the proper procedure because chances are you're going to have to change lanes at least once during your driver's test. So the first step is to turn on your turning indicator. It doesn't matter if nobody's around or if you're driving a white BMW, make sure to signal. Once you've signaled, then look in your rear view mirror to see if anybody's around. Then look into the mirror that you're planning on going to. So if you're planning on making a left lane change, look in your left mirror. If you're planning on making a right lane change, look in your right mirror. And then the last step is to look over your shoulder. As Maddie mentioned, make sure to look over your shoulder in a very pronounced manner so it actually looks like you're looking over your shoulder instead of a quick little glance. So if I'm going left, signal left, rear view mirror, side mirror, look over my shoulder, and then if you're clear, go ahead and move the car over. Once you're in the new lane, then you can turn your turn signal off. Now, if you want to make multiple lane changes in a row, I've seen people shoot from one lane all the way over to the fast lane on the freeway. Never, ever do that. It's unsafe and it is a surefire way to make you fail. So, if you want to do multiple lane changes, once you get into the next lane, then repeat the same process over again where you've indicated, look in the rear view, look in the side mirror, then look over your shoulder, move the car over, and once you're very much in the lane, then you can go ahead and turn the indicator off. Be as smooth as possible. If you scare your driving instructor, chances are you're not going to do well. Pretend that there is a full glass of water in the car, or your grandmother or your sister, although she likes going fast, so that's not really a good example. But pretend somebody hates any type of jarring motions, because chances are your instructor probably does. That means smooth acceleration, just barely pressing on the pedal, squeezing it with your toes instead of mashing it with your entire foot. That means smooth on the brakes, nice transitions, smooth steering inputs. You don't want to all of a sudden make a left-hand turn like... You don't want to all of a sudden make a quick left-hand turn and scare your test instructor. Make sure to give plenty of space when pulling out in intersections, especially ones with high speeds. If you have to wait at a stop sign or wait in an area for a long time, don't worry. Just because it feels awkward doesn't mean it's not the best decision. Don't go ahead and pull out because you've been waiting for 15 seconds and you've gotten tired of waiting. Make sure there is a prime opportunity to do so. There's no such thing as waiting too long in an intersection for a free space. even if it takes up to a minute, it's not gonna make your proctor uncomfortable. What will is if you pull out in front of another car. Something new drivers do a lot is veer to one side of the road. Oftentimes people like to veer to the left side for whatever reason. Well, there's a very quick cure for that because you want to be in the center of the road at all times so that you don't accidentally touch one of the lines, which is a great way to fail. In fact, that's almost how I failed my driving test, was on a left-hand turn. I almost touched the double yellow line. You don't want to do that. So a great tip for learning how to drive in the exact center of